I still feel 25. Most of the time, nah, that was, I broke, I don't know what happened. I broke a tackle or something, and then I was like, I think I can score it. Score.
Good morning, afternoon, and evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another video. Bombers win 36-23 over the Edmonton Elks. Bombers improved to a 3-0 record, and well, I'm feeling pretty good. Like, obviously, and to be honest, for a bit, this game was a little bit closer than I'd like. Just kind of based off the expectations of Winnipeg, the expectations of Edmonton, with Edmonton kind of being near kind of the bottom of the standings. Edmonton definitely put a better foot forward than they did in some of their previous games. I don't think it was just Winnipeg making mistakes. I think it was also Edmonton kind of learning from some of theirs. But Winnipeg getting the win 36-23. Before we get into it, make sure you guys leave a like if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't. Helps out the channel a ton. Hit the little notification bell, which helps the channel out a ton. And comment down below what you guys thought of this game. So let's get right into it. If we're looking at the pregame here, there's kind of two things of note here. So Nick Dembski was a game time decision after kind of screwing around his ankle a little bit. He was in tonight, and thank goodness he was. He had a very good game. I jokingly said that, saw somewhere, someone said that Nick Dembski should hurt his ankle a little more often with how well he played tonight, with a little bit of maybe not the best ankle in the world. It wasn't noticeable, I'll put it that way. Beard was out for Edmonton. That was their center. And in his place, I'm pretty sure it was Corte. Yeah, it was Corte, number 66. A bit of a change on the offensive line, which offensive line for Edmonton's being a bit of a problem. Now, Winnipeg's D-line would eventually kind of get through, but Edmonton's offensive line played better tonight than they had in some prior nights. Straightforward for a little bit. Got a little bit more time than I was maybe hoping. But let's get right into it. So first quarter, Elks start off with possession. They would go 2-and-out almost instantly. Bombers, they get like maybe a first down, and then that would be kind of the end of their drive. Wouldn't really get much. The Elks would then push it down, and Cody Fajardo gets the Elks on the board. Touchdown, Edmonton. He gets it done in short yardage. There was a bit of deliberation. We weren't sure if this ball was in the end zone. A little bit of a risky. It's funny. Cody Fajardo takes a little bit of a risk because he kind of sticks that ball out, which on one hand is a risk in the sense of a lot easier for that ball to come loose doing that. But the thing is I understand why he's doing it. The second that front of the ball creases, like the front of the end zone, that's a touchdown instantly. And at the end of the day, him doing that allowed them to get that touchdown. The conversion was good, 7-0 Elks. Not very pleased to see that. There'd be a good return by Trey Faval. And then the Elks would take a roughing the passer penalty on that Bomber drive, trying to go down the field. And then there'd be a huge pass for Nick Dembski. Touchdown, Nick Dembski and Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Castillo would go for the conversion, but it is no good. It's a little bit wide. 7-6 Elks. Kind of, again, just an unusual thing for Castillo to miss. But he would get his shit together for the rest of this game. So not too many concerns in that regard. There'd be and one thing that was that I think needs to be noted is even though like it took a while for the running game to get going, for Matthew Peterson to get going. Like actually, if I'm looking here, I'm just going to pull his stats up for this game. Matthew Peterson would finish this with 65 rushing yards on 12 rushes. That's pretty lucky considering he was at 5.4 yards on average. He was a lot lower than that though for the majority of this game. But he eventually got some success near the end, and so was able to kind of fix his average a little bit there. But even when he wasn't rushing, Matthew Peterson had a great block in this play. Go take a look at this first Dembski touchdown. Offensive line looked fantastic. Matthew Peterson, though, picks up the blitz. That's the important thing here. The offensive line, they all got their blocks. They got their main four, and they're kind of double teaming a couple of them. With I think the center and I want to say it was Kolinkowski and Wallace, I believe, were double teaming one of the D tackles. I think it was Jake Serezna. They were going after Serezna, just a deadly defensive lineman. Can't blame him. But then they had a blitzing linebacker who I'm pretty sure was either Morgan or Garnes for the Edmonton Elks, and Matthew Peterson picks him up perfectly. So great play by Matthew Peterson. Just needs a little bit more. I felt it was worth saying. I didn't see anyone else talking about it. Elks would then get possession. They would push it down a little bit. I felt the D-line wasn't getting enough pressure here. Again, I thought the Elks offensive line played better than they usually do. But I was like, you know what? I can see a little bit more out of this defensive line. And one of the things, and I kind of wrote it down in my notes a little later, but one of the things that was a little bit frustrating was the Bombers struggling to keep contain. Those outside ends, I'm looking at Jefferson, I'm looking at Vaughters, Trey Ford getting outside that. You want to contain the pocket. You want to keep him in there. Don't give him an escape route. Trey Ford, that's kind of one of his things he's good at, is getting that escape route. However, we'll see that Zach Collaros will have a little bit of that of his own, but D-line was just kind of early in the game. Wasn't getting as much pressure at it as I'd like, but it is what it is. Elks would take a holding penalty, and that would be kind of all of note for the first quarter. We go into the second quarter, and the Edmonton Elks would, shortly after, Vincent Blanchard with a 38-yard field goal makes it 10-6 for Edmonton. Again, a note of I put down here, offensive line's playing well. Offensive line, when you're holding them in front of you, and you're preventing them from getting to your quarterback, from getting to Collaros, it gives Collaros more time to cook. It gives more time for the receivers get down the field to make those big passes, to get those big touchdown passes, which would be what he would get next. As Kevin Clercius would grab himself a touchdown. Kevin Clercius, conversion is good. 13-10 Bombers. Bombers now finally with the lead in the game. Great pass for Wheatfall. Again, Wheatfall has done a very, very good job so far this season at making himself available. And I think he's gotten at least one touchdown in all three of the games that we've played. So just being very, very consistent for us. Good job for Kevin's Wheatfall. The Edmonton Elks would then we'd then kick off then, and Michael Chris Ike with a absolutely massive hit on the return. Seriously, he was just like a freight train, and just laid it right into him. I'm trying to remember exactly who the returner was for Edmonton. I think I got it written down here. I believe it might have been Arkell Smith on that play, as both Javon Leake and Arkell Smith got it, but Arkell Smith had more returns. Javon Leake did some of their punt returns, but Arkell Smith had more of the kickoff returns, even though Javon Leake did run like two of them, I think. But yeah, Arkell Smith takes a big hit, which is kind of hilarious in the sense of Arkell Smith in one of the first game in week 1 took this massive hit from Justin Williams, outside linebacker for the BC Lions. And so Arkell Smith kind of got smacked around a little bit. So just a massive hit by Chris Ike to kill that return right then and there. Clean hit though. Elks drive would just go nowhere, just can't get anything going. Bombers would then start going, and then it goes down. Nick Dembski, second touchdown of the game. The conversion is good, 20-10 Winnipeg. Dembski at this point, he is on fire. The defense, are we going to see a little bit of that fire from them? We do. Tony Jones comes in with the sack on the very next drive that the Elks get going. Was very, very pleased with Tony Jones tonight. Got the sack, but then also just overall played well. His positioning, I thought, was pretty good. Now, the Elks would punt here, and it hits Vival, and Vival doesn't get it. The ball comes out, and the Edmonton Elks recover. So that ball moves down the field. Edmonton, though, offense stays back, gets right back out there to continue it. And the Elks would then get going, but then the Elks would have a turnover of their own with them fumbling the ball, and James Vaughters recovers. Bomber ball. Bombers get possession now. There'd be a nice pass for Dalton Schoen to get that offense moving right on down the field. And I wrote down again, offensive line is looking awesome. Now, again, there'd be a couple hiccups later in the game. And part of it, it's funny. Like, it could be easy for someone to be like, Edmonton's D-line hasn't played very well so far, and so there's no excuse for this happening, where it's like, okay, there's like $500,000 in Jake Seresna and Jared Brinkman alone. These are two fantastic defensive linemen. And so they finally started to find their groove in Edmonton, which was bound to happen eventually. And so I thought the offensive line played very well tonight, especially considering the talent that they had in front of them and going against. And so all in all, I was pleased with them, and I think there's nothing really to worry about there. But the Bombers would then go for a field goal. Castillo hits a 35-yarder, 23-10 for Winnipeg. The Elks would then push, but however, they would take a penalty as they only had 4 offensive linemen on the line of scrimmage. One of them was back, and so can't do that. Elks take a penalty there. They're not pleased with it, and Vincent Blanchard hits a 30-yard field goal, making this 23-13 for Winnipeg going into the halftime. Halftime rolls around. I just kind of saw a few buddies of mine said hi, and then third quarter came around soon enough. Elks would start pushing. There'd then be a touchdown for the Elks. It was a good pass for Julian Grant, the former receiver of the Montreal Alouettes over in Edmonton. Now the conversion is good, making this 23-20 Winnipeg. Edmonton third quarter starting to close this gap. Wallace would take a procedure penalty on the Bombers' next drive. And the Elks would also go offside. And then we would take an accidental pass interference penalty. We would get so we'd take the penalty and we'd actually get the pick here. However, this was absolutely the right call. It was pass interference, but it wasn't. It was totally accidental. This is not something major. Unfortunately, I think if their guy doesn't fall down, which it might have been, I want to say it was Stephen Dunbar. But if he doesn't fall down here, I don't think this is a penalty. I think we just have an interception here. But he goes down, and so usually those will get called. So I'm not really that surprised or upset about that. But then Kyrie Wilson, like Tony Jones, would have a sack. So second sack for the linebacker core of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So good job for Kyrie Wilson. Elks would then try to get going a little bit further. They couldn't. Vincent Blanchard hits a 41-yard field goal, making this 23-23 tie game. I was not pleased at this point. I was like, tie game against Edmonton, third quarter, kind of falling apart. Not really that great. I expect better. Like at the end of the day, like I mean this in no offense, not saying that the Edmonton Elks aren't capable and that they don't have talent, but Winnipeg is the better team. They are a better team than the Edmonton Elks. And the Edmonton Elks, they played well. They certainly had, I think, despite this being another loss under their tool belt, I think they played a better game. Like, I think if you look at their game against the Montreal Alouettes, sure, they got 22 points in the fourth quarter. Tell me what they did before that, because the rest of that game was garbage. And so if we look at the Edmonton Elks here, obviously they don't come out with the win. They played a much more consistently pretty decent game, especially in that third quarter. Where it wasn't them just trying to play catch up in the fourth quarter. So I'll give, applause to the Elks, where credit is due. But it's time for the Bombers to get going. Jake Serezna, though, would get a sack on Zach Collaros on the next drive. However, we would try to get it going. It goes back and forth a little bit. We can't get it. And then Terrell Bonds, great defensive play by him, gets a pick. And, however, the play is reviewed. And when I say is reviewed, they reviewed this for a long time. It felt like 10 minutes. It took forever. I didn't know what was going on. Thankfully, though, my brother over in the press box sent me a text. Apparently, this ball hits the ground. And so it was ruled an incomplete pass. Finally, after this lengthy review, we would hear about this. But the Bombers would then get possession back after the Elks would then punt. And the Bombers are frustrated here. They're frustrated because they had great field position on that pick. If that counts, they're like within the 10-yard line, within the 5 maybe even. But they're pushed back to like their own like 30, 40, whatever it was. And I understand the want after a play like that to throw this long bomb and just get right back to where you were, but it's also the predictable play. And I'll give credit to the Elks here, like what's his name? I think it's J.C. Sherritt, Elks defensive coordinator. I believe it's J.C. Sherritt. Yeah, J.C. Sherritt. For recognizing here that this was what Jason Hogan was going to do. Again, this is what. Oh, like if you lose a really, really good field position right away from an overruling or whatever, you have kind of this there's this natural mentality people have of like, I got to get that back. I got to get it back now. And Jason Hogan didn't, I think he needed to show a little bit more patience there because Zach Collaros threw into like double, maybe even triple coverage on this play. Now, thankfully, it was ruled incomplete. It was incomplete. It wasn't a pick or anything like that. Just a little bit of a risky and, in my opinion, a little unnecessary play. But I understand it in the sense of First of all, just kind of the idea of it, of wanting to just get right back there. And also the talent that you have with Zach Collaros, with your receivers, and knowing what they're capable of. It's just a little bit too risky for my liking, at least right then and there, where it's a little bit predictable. So I would have made a different call than Jason Hogan, but I understand it. But that would be basically the end of the third quarter. And then if we go into the fourth quarter here, Jefferson and Vaughters. This is when I'm kind of talking about them starting to lose contain. Elks were running the ball pretty well. Justin Rankin did pretty well for them, as at least it felt like he did for a bit. Now, eventually we kind of get some stops on him, but I think Javon Leak was getting quite a bit there. They were just kind of escaping outside more than I'd like. I think they had around 70 or 80 rushing yards between the two of them. But then, when the Bombers go back on offense, Kevin Sklarcios with a big pass for him, he would get the Bombers down the field quite a bit. But then there would be a bit of a dangerous play here as we would go and try to make a pass for Sarek Wheatfall. However, this pass is incomplete. Wheatfall jumps up to get this, gets hit kind of right in the butt. Just kind of guy hitting his shoulder. And it's a clean hit. The guy's just trying to get Wheatfall off balance so that way he can't grab this ball. And unfortunately, Wheatfall literally falls right on his head. And he is slow to get up. And it's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, that's going to be concussion protocol. Like that's, again, clean hit, literally nothing wrong with the hit from if it was clean or dirty. There's nothing wrong with that. It was just he landed in a shitty spot. So it is what it is. But Castillo would hit a field goal for Winnipeg, making it 26-23. Bombers retake the lead. There'd be good coverage by the secondary, as the Elks would then go 2 and out. They would try to really get that ball downfield. Secondary, though, not giving them an inch. As the Bombers would get back on their drive, though, Elks were taking roughing the passer penalty. Again, another one. I believe it was Serezna with this one. And I said, we have no run game tonight. The Bombers then start driving the field. And then I said, never mind, Matthew Peterson. Matthew Peterson finally at this point in the game, in the fourth quarter, is starting to get that run game going. It took him a while, but as again, they were really... I think the Edmonton Elks really prepared for the run game tonight. They really prepared to make sure that whether it was Matthew Peterson or whether it was Quentin Cooley, who both got some reps, that the running game was not happening. So, we do miss Brady Oliveira in that sense, as you can prepare for Brady Oliveira, but it doesn't really matter if you prepare for Brady Oliveira, because Brady Oliveira is Brady Oliveira. But there would be... the Bombers would then get a catch. Now, this was a bit of a controversial catch in the sense of that it was one where he caught it, and then I'm like, oh, does that hit the turf? I don't know, but they rule it a catch, and the Bombers are smart about this. The Bombers are like, rush this next play. Get to this next play. Get to the next play. Get the snap in, because the second that we snap the ball and the next play starts, they can't challenge it anymore. And so it's one of those things where someone may not like it in the sense of, oh, but that's cheap, like if you know that it's not, well, then challenge the play. And so they decided not to, the Edmonton Elks, in the short amount of time. But that's, we got a first down, and we were not going to give them another chance to challenge that. Run the play right away. And that's what they did. Smart play to do. And we did that, and we kept pushing. And then Zach Collaros in the pocket. He's looking for options. He doesn't see any. But he sees that opening as he escapes pressure from the back, through the center, rushes it down. Zach Collaros with a rushing touchdown. Collaros was just great. He was everything that you'd hope for, as he had 3 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown. 4 touchdowns for Collaros tonight. Again, 1 rushing, 3 passing, with 2 to Dembski and 1 for Wheatfall, and he was just perfect. Conversion is good. 33-23 for Winnipeg. And unfortunately, at this point, this is when Wheatfall would go down the tunnel. I just kind of saw him walk. I'm in the end zone seats, so I saw him kind of go right up in front. So Wheatfall down the tunnel. I'm assuming that this is injury protocol, like concussion protocol. Hopefully he's all right for next week. But at the end of the day, if he's not, then next man up, just means that maybe Dalton Schoen, Nick Dembski, Stearns got to pull a little bit more of the weight. And Clarcius just kind of keep doing what he's doing. He's been playing well. The wave is on. The crowd started getting it going. They tried getting, there was a guy trying to get it going when it was like a tie game. And I was like, This is not the time. Get the lead first. But then Peterson really starting to get the run game going, just keeps punching it down. Sergio Castillo with a 23-yard field goal, 36-23 Winnipeg. Willie Jefferson would get a stack. The Edmonton Elks would try to get a bit more offense near the end of this game, but they just couldn't do it. Final score, 36-23 for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers over the Edmonton Elks. All in all, what are my thoughts on this game? I was very pleased. There's not much I can complain about here. It took a little bit long. I think the run game was hoping to maybe get that going a little bit better, but we're playing backup, so I can't really complain too much. Hopefully Wheatfall is okay. I've been very impressed with Wallace, with Randolph especially on the offensive line. And when certain guys get healthy, I would look at the opportunity of saying, well, I know Eric Lofton is usually being in that spot, but Randolph's kind of earning it. Wallace, he's playing well. Like, I would challenge that a little bit. I think the performance of some of the guys that have stepped up in the offensive line have earned them at least a fair shot at being a starter based on their performance. So hopefully that's something that happens. I want to see a little bit more from the D-line in terms of pressure next game against Calgary. This will be, I guess, sort of the return of Adam Bighill. I guess we're assuming, as Adam Bighill over on the Calgary Stampeders. It'll be the Stampede Bowl over in Calgary. I will be watching this game actually from Thunder Bay, as I have family there, and so I'll be. I don't think I'll be live streaming the game, but I'll be watching it from there. And I will do my video even over in Thunder Bay. We'll figure it out. So I want to know what you guys thought in the comment section down below of the game. Make sure you guys leave a like if you haven't already and subscribe, as it helps out the channel a ton. And peace, love, and positivity to all you wonderful people at home. And we will see you guys next time.